All right, we are going to tie an EP shrimp in the Coyote variant. I'm going to tie this one slightly different here than the original recipe for you guys. It's all the same. I'm just going to substitute some materials that I prefer. I am filling boxes for an upcoming trip to the Keys here, and this is a staple. I've already tied a couple, a handful of these. I got 3. This will be my 4th, and we're going to tie it exactly like these with small bead chain. This one is going to be a very lightweight variation to fish over some grass so it doesn't hang up a ton. But my guide out of Key West showed this fly to me in 2023, and I fished it quite a bit since then for bonefish in Mexico and Florida, and it has been very successful. And it's a very popular pattern all across the saltwater destination. So let's get started. We are going to start here with a Mustad S71. This is the hook that all the strong arms and the permit flies are tied on. I just like it for a lot of saltwater patterns. Just a really good hook, good little saltwater streamer hook. So I'm going to start here with some Danville 210, pretty basic thread, works for all the applications, and I'm just going to start it here behind the eye and run it back here a little bit and build a little thread base here. Now, anytime you're adding dumbbell eyes to a fly where you want it to ride hook point up, one thing you can do to help the kill of the fly, meaning help it turn over quicker, is build a nice solid thread base and make a little bump that extends off the hook shank before you mount your eyes. What this is going to do is it's going to move those eyes further from the shank of the hook and give the fly more keeling power, more flipping power. So I'm going to do this, unspin my thread there a little bit. I'm going to build a pretty substantial bump here to tie my bead chain eyes on. And these are the bead chains from Sightcast fishing here, the colored ones. I'm going to tie these ones in like a nice shrimpy orange. Just leaving a little bit of space there. You might want to leave a little bit more space if you're going to tie a weed guard in. I'm not going to tie a weed guard on these, but I'm just going to do some X-wraps, get them really good and mounted like so, and then I'm going to go around the eyes and cinch all those X-wraps down. Do that again and around just like so. Now we have a, oops, those came undone. 1, 2, good. We have a really solid thread base. Check it out, make sure they're straight. You could put some glue on those. I'm not, they're very solid. Let me make sure we're in focus here. Looks good. All right, now we're gonna work our way back. If you're right-handed tire, you might wanna untwist your thread here, like I'm gonna do, to give you a nice base, and then we'll just work our way back to shank here. And you're going to want to go up the bend just a bit on this fly. Not a ton, just a bit. It's about right there. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to make my way back forward. Not worrying about perfect wraps, but just giving myself a nice thread base for all my materials to adhere to. And I'm kind of leaving a little bit of space in my wraps, and my thread's a little corded as it gets twisted as I kind of work back here. But what that does is it gives your material something to bite into. Now, the creator of this fly, he is going to tie some flash in first in his rubber legs. I'm going to do this a little differently. I'm going to tie the chin of my fly in first, and he uses a piece of his EP brush. So what he'll do, this Coyote EP brush, he'll come in and he'll just trim a section of this out and use it as the chin of the fly. These are expensive, so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use just some Coyote fur undyed, and I'm just going to pull out the underfur, and I'm going to just get a plume, a chunk about yay big, and I'm just going to use this as my chin. It looks exactly the same. It's the same material. It's just missing the EP fiber blended in with it, which this stuff moves like crazy in the water. If you put this in like your tub or your bathtub or your testing tank, when it gets in the water, blows out really full. So if you put too much, you end up making a thing that doesn't really look like the chin and nose of a shrimp. So you don't want to do that. So just a little bit here. I'm gonna measure it about where I want it, and I'm gonna pinch wrap it in. Boom, 1, 2. I'm gonna check my length, and I want this actually to come up the bend a little bit more. So I'm gonna add some wraps there and build it up because I didn't put a base there. And then I'm gonna come back, and once it's really secure, I'm gonna come in, trim out my excess. So that's what we're working with right now. Let me make sure you're in focus there. Now, the next thing I'm gonna do, the original fly has some flash. I'm not gonna put any flash in these. I'm just gonna take 2 rubber legs. These are the colors I have. This is the orange crusher legs, Chacon's crusher legs, and then these ones, the brown barred with the white tips, are from Sightcast. I'm just gonna fold them over like so, find the middle point. And I'm not gonna tie these in on the sides. You could to make it really neat. I'm just gonna come back here and tie them right in the bottom and try to have them equally stretched out and just come right back with them. And they'll come right out the bottom of that fly. And then I'll just work back over them here. And you could stretch those out and trim them too. And I'll work back forward. Then I'm gonna kind of just stretch them to each side, pull them, and then I'll come in and trim them, and we'll make those exactly the length we want later, but I'll just trim those off a little bit for now. All right, so that's what we're working with so far. Now, the next step we need to get in here is going to be some piece of orange on top that is going to simulate the spawning shrimp. The creator of this fly, Enrico Pagolsi, the owner of EP, I hope I didn't just butcher his name. He uses some of his silky fiber. I'm going to use some Aunt Lydia's yarn here. This is just a great all-around material for all types of applications, but I'm just taking a little chunk. That's all this is right here, just a little wee bit. I'm just going to tie it in on the side closest to me, but then I'm going to roll this to the center of the hook shank. There, you can see it kind of rolled already. I'm going to take a couple wraps back, and then I'm going to come in and trim this off. Now, all I'm going to do is I'm going to pull this back. I'm going to take my comb, kind of comb it out, get it all fluffed out, and then split it right around the hook and pull it. That's the spawning part of your shrimp. That's the imitating that spawning sac. If you look at pictures of actual shrimp with spawning sacs, the spawn is actually inside kind of the leggy bottom of the shrimp. So atomically speaking, or anatomically speaking, that would be in here. Alright guys, sorry, my wife is putting my son down to go to bed and he's having a little bit of a rough time, so I apologize if there's some background noise. And I also apologize that there's a little bit of shadow on the fly as I have inverted the vise here, so I'll try to tilt it back and forth so you can see what's going on. But yeah, so that Aunt Lydia's yarn, I just like because it has a natural sheen to it. It doesn't retain water. It's just a really good material. So the next step is going to be to tie in some eyes, and we're going to do that the same here on the top of the shank as the fly will ride, but this is actually the bottom of the shank, and we're going to use, in my case right now, these easy shrimp eyes, which are the bee's knees. If you're still making mono eyes, as I was not long ago, I didn't want to switch over to these, but once you get them, you're like, oh my gosh, this is a game changer. They're so easy to use, and yes, they're more expensive than making your own, but they are so convenient, and the colors are sweet. So these are kind of these burnt orange ones that have some transparency. We're going to lay them in here, and I like to extend mine pretty far out the back, not, you know, crazy far. I'm not using all the available space that I could. I'm just going to start to lock these, and then I'm going to get them perfectly on top, and I'm going to work my way back, continually kind of checking them to make sure they're where I want them. Those look good, so I'm going to kind of hold them here with my left hand as I work back up here. And here, I'm not going to go the whole way up the top. I'm going to kind of stop right in here. Those are good. And you can see they're angled a little bit, not a ton, but they have some height to them so that they kind of go up the bend there. That is going to help with the kill of the fly. I'll turn this a little bit here, or actually I'll just invert it so you can see. Do you see how everything is tracking that way up the bend of the hook? It's going to help the fly flip properly. That's what we want. So I'll flip it back over here. Or actually I can tie it this way. Normally I would tie this the rest of the way inverted. but for the sake of this video, we'll go like this. I'm gonna work my way up here and just add another layer of base to this, and then work back like so. I'm gonna get to right here, and now you're gonna use some type of flash. You could do all kinds of things here. You could take some crystal flash or Flashaboo, tie it in and palmer it around. You could use a corded flash material. You could do what I'm gonna do and take some UV. The EP uses some type of, almost said author, I guess he's the author of this fly, that makes sense. He uses some type of crystal flash looking like clear flash, but I'm gonna add a little bit of more orange to this, and I'm just gonna do a traditional dubbing noodle. You can see how little fibers I have here. I'm just gonna get it started, and I'm not gonna wrap the noodle the whole way back, and I'm just gonna throw a couple right there and kind of tighten this dubbing noodle as I go so I don't overdo it. But we're gonna come pretty far back here. Need a little more. If you do it this way and you add as you go, you never end up with too much. It gives you more control than if you just slap a ton on there at once. You end up with like a really chunky looking noodle. It's not very durable. But you can see I'm gonna come the whole way back to the point, just about. And I'm gonna actually put a little more and just come past that hook point slightly. If you go too short with this, you end up using a lot of brush, which is okay, but then your fly gets too bulky and bulbous. We want this to be thin, easy to cast. All right, so here comes the Coyote brush. So I have some of this laying here. I buy this stuff from the angling company. They always have these brushes. This is just the EP brush, Foxy. It's a Foxy brush. And this color is sand. The color I'm tying this one in is the natural Coyote. So no matter what, the Foxy ones all have the Coyote fibers in them. And those are the long guard hairs you can see sticking out. And then the center of the brush, the core, is the EP fiber. So if you have a brush table, you could definitely make these yourself if you had some Coyote and some EP. We're just gonna tie this. I'm gonna tie it in right on the bottom and catch that wire good, being careful not to tear my thread. So I wrap some light thread wraps till I cover it up, then I'll really come back right now, cinch it down. Again, if I was tying these not on video, this would all be inverted. I'd be tying it inverted. All right, I'm gonna comb that, wet my fingers a little bit and just start to preen this all back. And I'm just gonna start wrapping. Don't worry about making these perfectly touching. We don't need a ton of this brush. This brush is pretty dense, pretty thick. And you're just gonna keep, tighten my vise a little bit. Just gonna keep working our way back till we get right here to these eyes. I'm gonna throw one more in here, and then I am going to come back. Let me make sure I like the top. I'm gonna put one more, and notice this one, I'm gonna come in front of the thread and catch it here on the bottom. What coming in front of the thread does is it allows me to come from behind when I tie this off. I'm gonna take a comb here. I'm gonna just go like this. It's gonna get all my fibers unmangled and make it a little cleaner as I wiggle through. See how I'm wiggling through? That helps get a clean tie off. Hook slipping a little bit here. I'm gonna throw one in front. And I'm gonna come through and wiggle again. Now I'm gonna pull up on the brush this way, up, pulling down on my thread that way, down, and I pull, and now I'll throw a couple in front and she's secure. And then I'll come in with my cutting pliers or scissors, whatever you got, trim it off nice and tight. And now I'm gonna brush all this out. And at this point, we can actually go ahead and whip finish before we start trimming this brush. Through whip turns on each of those. All right, now just kind of comb this out the whole way around. Now, if you were to fish this fly just like this, it's not gonna ride right. You gotta take all this brush on the bottom. So I'm gonna use the bead chain eyes as a guide, and I'm just going to come in and I'm going to start to trim this. And I am pretty liberal on the trimming, meaning I'm going to trim a lot, and I'm going to come in left-handed here. I'm not left-handed, and I'm going to go the other way and get right up under those dumbbell eyes. Take a whole bunch of this off. We don't need it all. And I'm going to look at it and eyeball it and make sure it's pretty level. Take a little more off over here. Now you can see what I've done to that bottom. It's flat. It's shaved pretty drastically there. And then just kind of take this and I'll wet my fingers and get it all in place, and that's it. That fly is finished. What I'll do is I'll come under here, take just a little bit of Loctite, super control, and I'll get right where that brush in that tie-off point was and just drop right in there. One thing I'll say about the bead chains is if you fish this fly and you want to reuse it, you gotta rinse it off because these bead chains will rust. All the bead chains rust out pretty quick. But let's take this off the vise and look at it. There it is. It's got some orange in the head there to give it the spawning shrimp look. Try not to touch that super glue. There it is from that angle. Here, try to get some light on that thing. There you go. It's just really buggy. Good shrimp. Here's another one. Same thing. Buggy. Good little shrimp pattern. Easy to cast. Great fly. And that's it. I hope to do more of these long form tying videos for you guys in the future. If you have anything you want to see specifically, drop it in the comments. I got a list of ones I want to knock out. But if there is a fly you guys want to see, or if maybe you've seen on my Instagram feed or something like that, just let me know and I'll try to get to it. Thanks.